When people hear the word empire, they usually imagine armies, conquests, maps painted in bold imperial colors, legions marching, borders expanding, flags rising over cities. But in the 20th century, something different emerged. An empire that didn't need soldiers, only signatures. No armies marching into cities, just men in suits landing in capital cities, carrying loan agreements in their briefcases. No occupation, no invasion, just debt. Now, before we go deeper, if you like content like this, where we break down money, power, and the systems behind them, make sure you like the video and subscribe, because this story, it's not just history, it's a warning. And if you want to see this kind of empire at its peak, you look at Latin America, because there, the International Monetary Fund didn't just lend money. It reshaped entire economies. It dictated national policies. It influenced the lives of hundreds of millions of people, all in the name of stability. All in the service of creditors. Here's the paradox. The IMF was created in 1944 at Bretton Woods. On paper, its mission sounded almost noble. Stabilize currencies, prevent economic collapse, help countries recover after war. It looked like the financial world's doctor, a system designed to heal. But in Latin America, that doctor became something else, a debt collector. And its priority wasn't the patient, it was the system. More specifically, the lenders behind it. To understand how this happened, you have to step into Latin America in the mid-20th century. Countries like Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, they were trying to modernize fast, build industries, expand state-owned companies, subsidize food and fuel to maintain stability. Growth today, cost tomorrow. Politicians made promises, jobs, development, rising living standards. But those promises weren't free. They were financed with borrowing. Then came the 1970s, and everything accelerated. Cheap money flooded the global system. Oil prices surged. Petrodollars piled up in Western banks, and those banks had a problem. Too much money, and nowhere to lend it. Latin America became the answer. Leaders saw opportunity. Borrow in dollars, build infrastructure, fund social programs, keep the system running. And for a while, it worked. Growth was high. Cities expanded. Industries developed. It looked like success. But there was always a catch. There always is. The catch came in the early 1980s. In the United States, under Paul Volcker, interest rates were pushed sky high to fight inflation. And overnight, everything changed. Loans that once cost 5% suddenly demanded 15, even 20%. The math broke instantly. And suddenly, Latin America couldn't pay. In 1982, Mexico made it official. We can't pay our debt. That moment wasn't just a national crisis. It was a global shock. Because it wasn't just Mexico. Dozens of countries were in the same position. And that's when the IMF stepped in. But here's what most people don't understand. It didn't just offer help. It offered conditions. Cut spending, freeze wages, devalue your currency, privatize industries, reduce public services, entire national economies. Rewritten. And those decisions? They weren't made locally. Not in Mexico City, not in Buenos Aires, but in Washington. And they had one clear priority. Make sure the lenders get paid. For politicians, this created an escape. They could say, we don't have a choice. The IMF requires this. Responsibility moved, but the consequences stayed with the people, and the results were brutal. The 1980s became known as Latin America's lost decade. Growth stalled, poverty exploded, inequality deepened. Entire countries became poorer, while still sending billions abroad in debt payments. Think about that. You're sinking, and still handing over your wallet. This wasn't just economics. This was real life. Riots in the streets, unemployment rising, governments collapsing, families struggling to survive. Meanwhile, the system presented itself as neutral, technical, rational, necessary. But the reality was obvious. It wasn't neutral. It was enforcing a structure where money flows upward, where creditors are protected, and where entire nations adjust to fit the system. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Latin America wasn't just a crisis. It was a testing ground. The same policies appeared again. Asia in 1997, Russia in the 90s, Greece after 2008. Different countries, same pattern. So the real question is, was this just bad economics, or was it the cost of maintaining a system built around protecting creditors? Because here's what most people miss. This isn't just history. The same dynamics exist today. Debt levels are massive, and the system is held together by one thing: belief. And belief can change fast. When it does, the adjustment comes. It might not be called austerity. It might be called reform, responsibility, stability. But the mechanism doesn't change. Budgets shift. People pay. Creditors get protected. That's the real lesson. Debt isn't just a number. It's leverage. And leverage always means control. And here's where it comes back to you. You don't control global institutions, but you do control how you understand the system. And that matters. Because people who don't understand it get crushed by it. Don't confuse promises with real wealth. Real wealth isn't what systems promise you. It's what survives when those systems fail. Your skills, your assets, your network. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And if you don't understand the pattern, you don't escape it. If this gave you a new perspective, like the video and subscribe. And if you want to go deeper into how money, power, and these systems actually work, watch the full video on the channel.